Thank you for tuning in today. I have a very, very special guest at Small Talks Big People podcast today. I have the money man himself, Money Man Mitch. What's going on?
How are you doing, Darby?
Oh, good. So Money Man Mitch is a financial advisor with Raymond James Associates. Well, ain't you also a CFP?
I am, Darby. I am. I'm a certified financial planner as well, so I took the steps to get that.
So explain to the audience, what is that?
So how I would explain that to the audience is that it's basically the gold standard for my industry. I took extra steps to get educated in all aspects of your financial picture, from education, from insurance planning to estate planning, all the above. Not only investment planning and portfolio management, but all the other things that come with that. It covers those top topics.
So you telling the audience they can't miss you then, pretty much. You can pretty much do it all.
I can do it all, basically. If you come to me, I really like the fact that, it differentiates myself in the field. I took the extra steps to get more educated, and I am a fiduciary, actually. And I have
sweet.
I have to hold that fiduciary responsibility, which means I have to uphold the best interest of my clients.
Yes, other clients always. Not your best interest.
Not my best
interest. So you're not going to bust my head with fees then,
no,
right?
That's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, most definitely. So tell us a little bit about your background and what made you pick financial services or, pick that industry to go into.
It's actually quite the same as you, Darby. I am third generation financial services.
Yes, the third's always the best. So I didn't say that.
Yeah, but I mean we've come from a long way, right?
Yes.
So my grandfather was a CPA. My dad was a CPA. He changed careers in his career field and went to financial advisory. Always knew I wanted to help people, but as a young age, I cut my finger. I had some bleeding. I fainted. And I knew the healthcare industry just wasn't going to be a part of my life.
Couldn't take them steps, huh?
Yeah. So
had to help somebody. Well, you keep them in good health and you keep them rich.
Exactly. I think it goes
about the same.
It goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
Definitely. If you're financially stable, it leads into all other aspects in your life.
So as being like a financial advisor, when you're out and about, and say, we hanging out, we might go see a concert or we just hanging out around town. Do people walk up and be like, "Hey, can you give me some advice?"
It's I always get the question, and so and I have to be very careful because I don't know that person. That person just can be walking off the street. I usually give them maybe a quick answer, or I usually go into more of their situation.
Okay.
Why are you asking me this question, and what intrigues you, and let's unpackage it versus just giving a quick.
Yeah, a quick lick.
Yeah.
So you really want to get to know your clients or a potential client to really see what they really need.
Yeah. Investing always goes back to your time horizon, your risk tolerance, and staying liquid, staying diversified.
Yes.
There's always these core principles that we preach to people, and we go through a process to get them invested to make sure we know their goals, what their short-term goals are going to be, what their long-term goals are going to be, and we find solutions and we come up with options and we present that to people.
Now, do you get tired of people asking you these questions like, "I'm off, man. I'm trying to chill. I'm trying to have a good time, and we at a festival. I want to talk shop or what?"
Actually, no, because I live and breathe it every day, and for people to get that spark in their eye about investing and about getting ready for their financial future, we're talking about setting yourself up for retirement. We're talking about setting your kids up for education. Those are all exciting topics to peel back and get started on. So.
Okay. So when should a person start thinking about retirement? At 50, 40? 20? Like, when's a good time to start? Say, hey, I need to think about my retirement,
So I hope it's everybody's goal to retire. And so
I believe so.
I believe so. Unless you just that type of personality. Warren Buffett's still going. So, I might have to add to that.
But he can't. The thing is, if I can work till I'm 100, I'm gonna work, but I don't want have to work till 100.
Exactly.
So there's a little difference.
I think getting people to that position of it's way more important getting to that position where I don't have to go to work. The work, I'm not coming in for a paycheck. I'm coming in because I want to. I'm not strapped to the desk, if you will. I want to get people to that part of their life where they can make that decision and they're not forced to make other decisions.
Yes. So you're saying just earliest, the best.
So the earliest is always the best. But given, it's always to the person's, it's always depending on what the person's going through at that time. But there's an old saying that I like to use. It's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. And so it's all about getting started early, building that muscle of saving.
Okay.
And that will lead you, it's more important getting started and paying yourself first, getting that money out of your account for retirement and saving it and do what you need to do. It's all, and it comes back to what the person really needs.
Don't you think that's something we should probably start thinking about in high school, seeing high school? Like, because most seniors in high school have a job. They need to learn how to start putting money aside ASAP to start that habit.
I think, yeah. So when you're coming out of high school, you might have some other, you're going through a lot of transition when a young person. You might be buying your own house. You might be getting more education. You might be starting a family. And so those things can definitely derail you. But I also think that you should always start with something small. Start with a small amount. Most people can afford, $50 a month. Start somewhere.
It's just that starting point to start that exercising of that muscle.
Exactly. And really, really following along, starting to follow along, and you really get to see that compounding effect start to happen at a very early age. And it's beautiful once it gets to.
I mean, that feeling of seeing your account grow, I don't know anything better than that. It's one of the best things in life.
We don't like to get through, I don't want to get too excited or anything, but seeing your earnings do more and more for you as you sock it away, is amazing. I like the saying, I want your money to work just as hard as you worked for it.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And so.
Yes. So now, whenever you was 18, you always knew this is the path you was going to take?
Well, it was set up at a very early age that if I did everything correctly, kept my nose clean, if you will, it would all, it would all work out, right? But I went and got my education at a very early age. I always was intrigued with value and things that had value. And at a very early age, I started collecting coins. I was always a big saver and a big collector. And I like to think of, your portfolio as almost like a collection you're building. That collection's you're going to use that later on in life, but you're trying to give yourself value, generate more value so you can use it later on.
So was that natural for you, or did your parents on the saving part, or did your parents kind of like make you save when you was young?
So I would say I've always had it in me to seek it. And growing up in a household like that, it was bred in me also. I would say it goes hand in hand. But I've always had an eye for just looking for things, looking to store value, generate wealth. It was always intrigued by those types of things.
Okay, because I was working for my dad at a young age, so I got paid, but he made me save.
Yeah.
He made me put up 20%. Now, and I had to save for any big purchases. I can dip back into it, but I couldn't dip into it for like a regular video game or something regular. I had to wait for something that was kind of major. I mean, I guess for a 12-year-old, whatever major that was, I don't remember, but
So I guess it goes back to starting at a young age, building those habits of putting a portion away towards something.
Yeah.
A lot of people, for myself, a lot of people function, out of mind, out of sight. If I don't see the money in my checking
Not gonna
account.
bother you too much.
It's not going to bother to me. I'm not going to be tempted to go. There's other things that, it's always a process, and figuring out where that person is in their process is always fun, and then mapping it out for them, that's what it's all about.
Now, as a financial advisor, and your job is to always do better for your client, do you sometimes have some hard conversations with people?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Not
only do I have the privilege to tell people that they have the ability to retire, I also have to tell them that they're spending too much money and they're not going to be able to retire at this age, or your goals are unrealistic, and therefore we need to go back to the drawing board and save more, cut cost. We have to go back and figure out what's the disconnect and how can we bridge that gap.
Okay. And then what would be your advice to somebody just coming into the market? Just say they graduated college, they started their career. Should they start off the jump?
And so it kind of goes back to what I said, that you have to look at where you are in your life cycle and look at the goals that you have. You don't want to just jump into the market, if you will, without, because the market's very risky.
Yes.
And past performance doesn't always predict the future.
Yes.
Right? Anything that we invest in, from short-term investments to long-term investments, have some type of risk, and understanding that risk and how it fits into meeting that goal is really where where people need to understand. To kind of go to a good starting point for a person when they're starting to build their first portfolio, diversity is always key, right? So choosing a diversified basket of stocks or bonds or something like that, a mutual fund or an ETF, something that's going to diversify your funds with a little bit of capital that you have at the beginning, is very warranted.
Okay, there's a lot of gurus on social media that's telling young people and old people, hey, do this, do that. I'm an expert. I made, $100 million yesterday. Follow me. Is that some good? Can you get good information from them? Or where would somebody have to go look and kind of get some good information from?
So there's a couple points you bring up there that are, first of all, there's no quick rich scheme.
No get rich overnight.
You cannot. It's the power of compounding, and compounding takes a lifetime almost. But to go back to it, what's a disadvantage to younger people these days is that they have too many options.
It's too wide open.
It's too wide open. I can sign up for any app. There's 15 apps I can think of off the top of my head that will accept my money and allow me to do whatever.
Most definitely. Give it here. Give me your money, please.
Yeah. And then there's all these other instruments that are coming about with cryptocurrencies. And so it's really a challenge, and you can get paralyzed by the amount of options you have.
Yes.
And there's somewhat of a standard that's going to happen within your life that, eventually you might buy a house, and that becomes your portion of the real estate portfolio.
Oh, yes.
Right? And so get me back on track.
Just, finding good information.
Yeah. So finding good information, I read a lot of financial news, the Wall Street Journal, Barron's magazine is a great one. FactSet, I usually read the morning
brief.
Morning brief. That's a staple. That's what I get up, and that's the first thing I read in the morning. But I think you can learn a lot of things online, but just take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research and bring it back to your situation,
to your personal needs and qualifications, I guess.
Exactly, and it takes time.
Yes.
It takes time, but I promise you, if you start at a young age, you'll see the fruits of your seeds that you plant now.
Okay. Well, now Look, Money Mitch, this is the spicy part of the podcast.
Uh-oh.
I got the Small Talks Big People podcast hot sauce. I might ask you something that's really, really, really spicy now. And everybody want to know, if I had $10,000, what should I do with it?
Whew. I can't answer. I can't answer that. So, it goes back to if you have your first amount of money that you have. It's a process, like you said. Like I said, there's questions that you need to go through. Do you have any debt? Do you have what are your short-term goals? Do you need a vehicle in a couple of years? Those things all come back to making your decision. But ultimately, that first $10,000 needs to be well diversified, and that's why I bring up the mutual funds and ETFs.
Okay.
Don't choose choosing individual stock positions is very, very risky. You can go read some statistics that are out there about how stocks do, individual stocks, how they perform, and most of the time, your ETFs are going to do you just fine.
Uh-oh. That's my rooster calling me.
Uh-oh. She knows it's getting spicy in here.
Yes. She's probably like, oh, he going to try to spend all our money or something. You know me, I'm going to risk it.
Yep. So you can't risk it too much. You got to have something there. Got to have some rainy day funds. Always got to have emergency funds. But before you allocate, before you jump into the market, you have to ask those questions to yourself. Do I have any debt that I need to pay off? Do I have any short-term goals that I have coming? When you start allocating money to the market, you need to have a time horizon of 3 to 5 years is a minimum, but really a 7-year time horizon, 10-year time horizon is really good for the market. You're going to do okay. And so making sure that you don't need that money anytime soon is really important.
It's the biggest thing, right?
It's the biggest thing, going back to it. But with the first $10,000, diversifying that money is the biggest thing you need to do.
Okay, and then you advise people to go out and do it themselves, find somebody to help them.
What I want to encourage people is encourage people to find a professional. It doesn't have to be me, by no means, but finding that person who can help you make those decisions, I think is very, very smart in the long run. You don't give yourself diagnosed health. If you have a health issue, you go see a professional.
Yes.
If you have a financially related issue, you go see a professional. And your retirement is somewhat of an issue on everybody's.
Yes.
Affordability and kind of.
Okay. So what advice would you have for yourself going back to 18, 20, besides like buying certain stocks or something, but what principal advice would you give yourself?
So that's a good one. Have confidence in what starting in your career, you learn what you can, read what you can.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big thing. Getting your education and getting well versed in your field, it is always a big thing. And so,
okay.
For me, listening more. I would say listening instead of talking. And so,
and that's be to peers, to clients, to superiors, or
to everybody.
To everybody, just being listen first.
Listening more and listening with intent and trying to really understand what the client is trying to accomplish.
Okay.
I think I can miss that sometimes. I think but going for a young investor though, starting early, doing anything you can. There's a big thing that I like from some investors that I follow, it's very hard for you to get to your first $100,000.
Yes.
It's just dramatic. It's the hardest thing to do as you build your portfolios, that first 100 grand, because you really don't see the true compounding
Until numbers get big.
until the numbers really get big.
Yeah.
And when they get big, it doesn't take much, right?
Yes, it don't.
And so accumulating that first 100 grand is very important, I think. Trying to have that by the time you're 30. Set some goals that are realistic, but as a young person, set some goals for yourself to have done at the end of the decade or something like that.
And then, what would be some good like products or?
And so what I would say, diversify to ETFs.
Okay.
You can go into the active and managed, argument, but for those people who have access to their 401k or anything like that, they also have target dated funds that kind of give you that align your funds with a retirement date. They're called target dated funds because they're targeting your retirement. And as they get closer to that date, they automatically get less risky. And so it kind of puts it on autopilot where you don't have to make those investment decisions. When do I have to get more conservative? That fund will already do it. And there's professionals that have built that pathway, so to speak.
Okay.
And so that's.
And then say if somebody is working a job and got a 401k, shouldn't they try to max out or?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on when you start, but generally, if you're starting in your 20s, you probably want to start saving 10 to 15% of your, that's your goal that you want to work up to. You want to save 10 to 15% towards retirement. Okay, of your gross. If you make 100 grand a year, you need to be putting anywhere from 10 to 15,000 into retirement. And if you start later, that percentage is going to go up.
Yes,
it's almost like a pendulum, right?
Yes.
If I want to start early, I get to retire early.
Yes.
If I save more aggressive, I get to retire maybe at 60, 55.
Yes.
But if you're late, you got to put more money up. It's going to
A lot more effort.
A lot more effort.
A lot
I
more
like
effort.
that. I like that.
Yes.
A lot more effort because you don't have that time. You don't have that time on your side
Yes.
for the account to naturally compound on itself. And so that's
Okay. And then what about IRAs and stuff like that?
definitely look at those. I mean, the Roth IRA for younger folks, definitely look at that. You can use it to buy your first home. You can pay for higher education expenses with things like that. That's a flexible account. That's not going to get you so much in trouble. But realize when you are putting money into these retirement accounts, you are earmarking that money for maybe 30, 40 years down the road, depending on your age.
Yeah.
You can't really pull those assets out, those funds out until you're 59 and a half. And so realize when you put that dollar into that account, you're not going to see it for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so you have to make sure that you don't need that money.
Okay. And then what about for if somebody's a small business owner? What kind of and they cutting grass everywhere. They got some big contracts. How can they start putting money to retirement?
So with an IRA, which is an individual retirement account,
So they can do it that way also.
they can do it that way. Typically when people work for a company, they match, and so you don't get that. But
Yeah.
if you don't have access to a 401k, IRAs are definitely a good option for folks. And you can get a tax deduction. Talk to your CPA. I'm not a tax advisor.
Yeah.
But talk to your CPA about the benefits of that, or your not your CPA, it's your tax advisor, whoever
Yes.
you seek for tax advice. Ask them about the benefits that you can reap from starting some retirement accounts.
Okay. And then overall this year, how has it been on the market?
It's been pretty strong. It's been really strong. This year is kind of chalking up to be somewhat like last year, how strong it was. You're seeing inflation starting to moderate, starting to come down to the Fed's target.
We've been waiting.
Been waiting, yes. Which will eventually lead to maybe interest rates coming down and the Federal Reserve being able to lower interest rates.
So is that what people the consensus is that the interest rates are going to be coming down pretty soon, or what?
The consensus that that we could maybe see one by September.
So before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year, we could see one.
That'd be good news.
It would be some good news. He's got to get it right though, and I think it's more important when he starts and gets that right than where it takes us, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
Because once he starts, that's going to be the backdrop. We're going to and usually when interest rates are starting to moderate or lower, it's a good backdrop for stocks and equities.
For all assets.
For all assets.
Assets start to go up.
Yep.
So it makes some real money.
Mm-hmm. But your savings rates go down. It hurts some other people.
Yeah. I guess depending on what stage
you are in your life.
Yeah.
If you're a borrower, definitely, mortgage rates are really high right now,
yes.
and it's tough. It is. It's tough.
It can be real tough when banks are a little more conservative and won't give traditional loans to get stuff done. Yeah. It'd be rough on the whole economy as a whole. Now, Money Mitch, if anybody had questions or concerns or anything, could they reach out to you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. That's generally where you can find me. Or just look for our website.
Okay.
You can search me at RaymondJames.com /Easton Woods Brignac Wealth Management.
Okay.
So if you search Woods Brignac Wealth Management Raymond James Lake Charles, you'll be able to find our website link.
And then can you service anybody in America or only in Louisiana?
So I'm not licensed in all 50 states. I would have to be pretty careful about that.
Okay.
But if it's it's pretty easy to get licensed in other states. But for the most part, I'm licensed, especially in the Texas area, the Southwest Louisiana.
Okay.
We have clients in Florida and all over the place though.
All over the South.
Yeah, all over the South.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So I'd like to thank today's sponsors before we leave. I'd like to thank y'all for coming in and tuning in with us. I'd like to thank Bayou Tech. Anything that you need in digital marketing or advertising, look at Bayou Tech. I want to thank Guillory's Famous Foods, the home of the Creole-style cooking, where if you need one dinner or 1,000 dinners, we can make it happen. I'd like to thank Executive Builders. For any commercial needs or residential needs, they treat you like family. And
Raymond James and Associates, Mitchell Woods, financial advisor.
Give us that like and that thumbs up, and we appreciate y'all. Until next time, thank you.